Joining us in studio, I love this time of the year, Mike Elko, Duke head football coach, joining us in studio alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies. Coach Elko, how are you?
I'm doing really good. Knee-deep in spring ball and kind of rolling along.
I mean, I kind of feel like you got to step it up now. 9 wins, ACC Coach of the Year. How do you follow that up?
Retirement was one of the options that we
go out on top.
That was one of the options we kicked around, but no, we got we had 18 starters back, so we figured we'd make one more run at this thing.
So I am curious. We talked to you at ACC Kickoff last summer and just kind of like, all right, where Duke's program was, how you have to build that up and actually set expectations. You have a phenomenal year. You have a breakout quarterback in Riley Leonard. So how have things kind of elevated for you and what the expectations are for the players coming back after what was a phenomenal year?
Yeah, I think you're living on two different sides of the fence. But, outside the locker room, you're trying to take advantage of the 9-4 season and the buzz and trying to build hype around what Duke football can become, right? You're using all of that in ticket sales and recruiting and all of those things. But then internally, you're trying to make sure that the program itself stays extremely grounded. And obviously, we understand 1 year does not make a program. And so, there's a lot of work that needs to get into continuing to be successful, doing it for a long period of time. But you do try to take advantage of some momentum in the ways that it can help you.
Mike Elko, Duke football coach, joining us on the in-person Heaster Automotive Group hotline. I want to stay on last year for a second, and I feel like I asked you this in the middle of the year, so I think it's only fair to ask you at the end of the year. In your wildest dreams, you had 9-4?
Yeah, in my wildest dreams, I did. Yeah,
because you're from the Dave Clawson school.
Yeah,
okay, and he's always kind of had to start slow.
Okay,
to get it somewhere.
Right. So let's
just come in and jump in.
Can we just separate that for a second? So there's a lot of Dave Clawson things that I do believe in, and he obviously had a huge impact on me and my program. Some of the places I've been recently, the whole lose early, win later thing didn't seem to fit.
Sure,
so you get to Notre Dame.
You can
get to Notre Dame after the 4-8 season, and the whole idea of building, it was kind of like either win now or pack and leave.
There's a little urgency there.
And then some of the stress down in Aggie Land wasn't exactly So
okay,
so I think we had a little bit of a different
BK and
feel.
Jimbo taught you to dream.
We had a little bit of a different feel in terms of winning now, but no, I think. What we learned. I think we learned we had a really good culture. I think that matters. I think we learned that we had kids that were willing to do what we were asking them to do, and that matters. And I think as the early part of the season started to go, we realized we had a quarterback, right? And that was huge.
I would say proof positive of that culture is in today's football, someone like Riley Leonard could have the year that he had, and then he could decide, hey, coach, love you, mean it, appreciate the opportunity, but I'm about to go make some money in NIL because this is what my market value is.
Yeah.
So it has to say something about not only your faith in him and his, confidence back, but it has to say something to you that he knows you and Coach Kevin Johns have put him in the right position to have the success that he's had.
Yeah, I think the one thing, and we say this all the time around our place, but the one thing that get lost in the transfer portal is the number one goal is to keep your guys out of it, right? If you can run a program that people feel like they're getting the right opportunities, the right exposure, the right NIL opportunities, all of those things to a level where at least they feel comfortable that they're not searching for something better, that's win number 1, 2 probably, and 3, right? And so we were able to do that with a lot of guys. Graham Barton, grades out as the number 2 left tackle in the country last year. He's a first-team preseason All-American, and he's still here, right? And certainly he had his opportunities and options too. And so, yeah, that means a lot for our program.
Mike Elko, Duke head football coach, joining us here on the OG alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies. This Saturday, they got the spring game, 1 o'clock, Brooks Field. They got that fan fest taking place at noon on the practice field, and free hats for the first 4,000 people who show up. So you can go to goduke.com/blue-white game for more information. I am curious because I was looking at the home schedule because part of this is, hey, buy season tickets, etc. Is it pretty good home slate? You got NC State, Clemson, Notre Dame, Wake Forest,
underestimate,
and then but it goes beyond that too. It's like, dude. Ooh, I forgot you. It's like I'm used to the.
Can't get away.
I'm used to the divisions. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's right. We don't have divisions. So kind of take us back to the conversation. This has been a long time coming. I know Giglio's been arguing for the schedule change for years. The pandemic kind of gave us a glimpse of what it could be. So did you get the sense that there was a true argument to keep divisions, or it was more of a look, we're going divisionless. how we're going to make this work for your school versus, say, Clemson, NC. Everybody has different needs. So how did you argue this back in those meetings?
Yeah, I think when we got into the mix, or by the time I got into the mix, it seemed pretty clear that we were going divisionless.
Yeah.
And I think everybody kind of seemed to agree that that was the best for the league. You know, the fact that we weren't getting everybody playing everybody in a 2-year stretch, 4-year stretch, you know, that it was taking 7 years to get everybody playing against each other. I think everybody knew we needed to do something different. Then it was just about what was the model going to look like? What was the scheduling model going to look like? And then who were your permanent team's going to be, right? And I think those were the things that became a lot of the conversation this time last year, and then ultimately we settled on what we settled on.
Okay.
I'm trying. You're from New Jersey, so I'll just come out and give it to you.
That's always
straight
best.
if you'd
It's
like.
always best.
This is a true. Now the pandemic helped, right? And TV money talks and everything else walks, and I get all of that. You know what the undertone of all of this is, though? That Carolina and Duke don't run this league anymore.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, the divisions, the way that they were set up, benefited Carolina and Duke.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a conversation for people who have been in this league as long as the two of you guys have.
You just got here. You're like,
Yeah,
but all right.
But yeah, maybe,
I'm not saying this schedule is helping you.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong.
If what I've walked into is payback for 10 years of what Duke was doing, like, thank you, but no thank you. So I don't know.
But you just have to line them up and play them. I think the point is you're now going to see these teams on a regular basis, where before you did not see the teams on the Atlantic side, and you can recruit a kid now and say you're going to play at every stadium in the ACC, which David Cutcliffe was never able to do.
No, and I think it's just good for the league, right? It's just good for the league to know that your teams are going to play each other more frequently, and how that benefits or hurts each individual team is kind of irrelevant. I think it's really just getting the brand. We've got to build the brand of ACC football. We obviously, have become a little bit top heavy with Clemson, and we've got to get the rest of us in a position where we can support them and we can create games to get this league back to where it was a few years ago.
Did you think you were done with Sam Hartman?
Well, it would have been nice to be done with Sam Hartman. We threw the ball in the 4-minute drill to not give the ball back to him, and we were able to get out of that game without having him get the ball one more time, which was, I felt like, critical. And then and then he goes and he goes off to Notre Dame and he's back on the schedule again. But no, I got a tremendous amount of respect for Sam, and he's a phenomenal quarterback. And
there's it seems to be a generational shift in coaches and their attitudes, and I can't go all by age line because Mac Brown seems to be fairly progressive on this, but where do you fall on this concept of not only the portal giving these guys the ability to move, but also NIL?
Yeah, I get it. Right, I get it, and I think everybody understands the concept of it. If coaches have freedom to do whatever they want, players should have a little bit of freedom to do whatever they want. Certainly shouldn't feel as though coaches get paid what we get paid and players get paid nothing. Those things certainly don't seem to make a ton of sense. I think I'll be in the camp like most of us, which is just like, can we have a little bit more regulation around it? And we went from
some regulation,
right? We went from basically nothing to 365-day free agency with the portal and NIL and all the stuff that comes along with that, and it just would be nice to have a little bit of regulation around it. I think that's all anybody's looking for now. Let the kids get what they deserve. Let the kids get the opportunities they deserve, but let's figure out a way to kind of curtail it.
Did Riley come to you and say, "Hey, so School A just offered me this much"?
Honestly, coming from where I've come from, I think we just make it really clear. I know what's going on. I'm very well versed.
To be clear, that is
I spent 4
your
years.
Previous stop was Texas A&M.
Well, I spent 4 years in the SEC, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
It's not even necessarily one specific school. It's just you know what the world looks like out there, and so we don't need to have. I don't need you to come tell me people are coming after you. I'm good. And so I think it started the other way with just us going to our kids saying, listen, this is what's coming. People are going to come after you. People are going to solicit you. You're going to have a really hard time separating fact from fiction, what's real, what's not real. Here's Duke, and here's all the reasons why this is the right place for you, and this is why you should be here and you should stay. And we just took a really proactive approach so that we didn't get caught sitting around acting as though we had no idea what might be happening out there.
Hearing Mike Elko talk, Duke head football coach, you keep going back to it. Like, man, I was in the SEC. Like that's gonna shape a lot. It's like when people talk about, man, driving around here in the Triangle's gotten really bad. I'm like, I grew up driving in South Florida. That's where I learned how to drive. This is nothing. Or traffic's bad here. Have you been to Atlanta?
Right.
Like things are all relative in the grand scheme of things, which kind of gets me to a more philosophical question for you, because you mentioned it. Making the league, at least narrative-wise, better. We actually just saw this in basketball, where the right teams weren't the ones that are winning.
Right.
Is it as simple as that? Like, how do you combat, or do you even care about the fact that if Duke has a good season, the general attitude nationally is going to be, well, if Duke's having a good season, well, that means the ACC is not that good. Or it could just mean that you elevated your game and the ACC is better than you might have thought. Do you give any of that credence? Do you try to fight that? Do coaches talk about that? Because the perception around the league is something that seems like it's constantly being battled over.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just continuing to drive the national narrative about what the conference is all about.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing. And obviously our marquee brands play a big role in that. And Duke becomes more relevant when they beat a marquee brand. If the marquee brands are down or not having good years, then it's easier to say, the ACC's down, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's a piece of it. And then it's just getting those games on those national stages. I think that's the one thing that we've got to get back to, where, Saturday night you're watching 2 top 10 teams in the ACC play each other. And, again, we've had a lot of success. We've done a lot of things. We've consistently been in the playoff. But we've got to get some teams to get up there and support Clemson if we want this thing to last for a long time.
Your win over UCF in the bowl game goes a long way towards that. When you beat teams like that early in the year last year, you beat Northwestern. Those are the kind of wins that everyone around the league needs to kind of pick up their own slack on, in my opinion.
Yeah, and when we get those opportunities to go out and play those games, we got to win. Florida State beating LSU last year. Those are big wins.
Which never got any credit for, by the way.
But that's
details.
Yeah, but that's
because they missed an extra point. It wasn't because Florida State won.
That's where the narrative, right? We've got to push the narrative that when we go out and win those games, we have to make them mean something. We got to stop saying, every time an ACC school beats an SEC school, it's not because the SEC school didn't have interest, right? Like we can actually go out and beat those teams.
Mike Elko, Duke head football coach, joining us here on the OG. Spring game is this Saturday. You can head on over to goduke.com/blue-white game to find out more information. All right, we'll close on this. Going back through last year, how much of last year have you watched in terms of like tape, breaking down, kind of revisiting?
Yeah, we watched it all.
Okay.
We watched every piece of it this
So
season.
we're sitting here going, oh man, incredible. 9 wins, the bowl win. The one thing you go back to last year, because I know how coaches are, you're like, needed to change that. Can't have that happen again. What was the one thing?
I can answer it for him, I think.
Well, I think I think there's a couple of things. I think defensively we got to get better on third down. I think we know that, and we've got to be able to stop giving up so many explosive pass plays, and that I think will allow our offense to cut loose even a little bit more so than we did at times this past year. And then, offensively, we just got to finish games a little bit better. We had some opportunities at the end of games early in the year that we could have taken advantage of. And we win a couple of those close games early in the year, and we might be in Charlotte.
One of the things he lied to you. You're not leaving yet. One of the things I'm most proud of is I predicted Matt Rule's failure as an NFL coach because he did not have the right play caller. How did you know that Kevin was your guy, and how did you know that thing was going to work the way that it did?
Yeah, it's hard to say but the process was I literally just watched got it down to about 6 guys where the statistical analytics made sense to me. They were fits that we could get at Duke, guys who made sense, personalities that I had liked, and then I just went through and I literally watched their entire season as a play caller as if I was the defensive coordinator. Trying to look at it and just kind of see what it looked like. And I felt like Kevin was very creative. I thought he did a really nice job kind of game to game of dressing things up. There always seemed to be like there was some different in-game concepts that made sense based on the defense they were playing. And so it just seemed to all fit, and then him and I spent a lot of time, obviously. The one benefit of COVID, for as bad as it was for so long, was Zoom. Right, Zoom was created, and the ability to hop on a Zoom with a guy and really go through things extensively without so we really could do 3 interviews without ever getting on a plane, right? And so that was good, and it just felt like he was the right fit with the right personality, and he's top notch in every aspect.
You've already got 1 win this year, then. Hanging on to him.
Yeah, I think that's the other piece of it, right? We hung on to all of our players, and then we hung on to the majority of our staff. And so, that's part of changing the rhetoric about what Duke football is. We were able to put resources into this program that maybe hasn't been done in the past and given us an opportunity to really be competitive at the top of the ACC.
That's Duke head football coach Mike Elko. The spring game is Saturday, 1 o'clock, Brooks Field, Wallace Wade Stadium. They got the pregame activities starting up at noon. Go check it out. Find out more at goduke.com/blue-white-game. Coach, we appreciate it. We'll see you in July. 3 days of ACC kickoff.
Yeah, no 40s this year, so we're gonna have to figure out exactly what the plan is.
I'm inspired because you're here in the studio with us. You saw our video game setup. I think it's time to bring back Tecmo Super Bowl.
Okay.
So that was you played that back.
I played
like in our age range.
I played a little Tecmo Super Bowl back in the day. I pushed hard for baseball stars, but sounds like we want to stick with the football theme.
I got the emulator. You can play whatever you want. You want Punch Out. You want Baseball Stars. I got the Neo Geo with Baseball Stars 2. I got all that stuff from back in the day. Coach, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.